Good morning. This is retired Pastor Karl Schmidt from Calvary Lutheran Church. I want to welcome you to our broadcast this morning, internet. We used to call it broadcast when we put it up on the radio. I'm not sure what to call it when you put it up on the internet. Anyways, YouTube, I guess. Okay. Well, morning voice here. I want to welcome you to our Sunday sermon today. It's the first Sunday in pre-Lent. For those of you who still celebrate the old church year, the Sundays before Ash Wednesday and Lent are 3 Sundays of pre-Lent, moving from the Epiphany. So, the text appointed for this first Sunday in pre-Lent is from the Gospel of Matthew, the 20th chapter. That's Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. It's a rather longer story that Jesus told to kind of drive home a point to them that he was and is all about equality in a surprising way. Not as you might think. Okay, Matthew 20, verses 1 through 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is a householder, which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard. And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the 3rd hour, and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right I will give it to you. And they went their way. And he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour, and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out, and found others standing idle, and said to them, Why stand you here idle all day? They said unto him, Because no man has hired us. He said unto them, Go also into the vineyard, and whatsoever is right, that shall ye receive. And when the evening was come, the Lord of the vineyard said to his steward, Call the laborers, and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first. And when they came were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first came, they supposed that they should have received more, and they likewise received every man a penny. And when they received it, they murmured against the good men of the house, saying, These last have wrought but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal unto us, which have borne the burden and heat of the day? But he answered one of them and said, Friend, I do thee no wrong. Didst thou not agree with me for a penny? Take that thine is, and go thy way. I will give unto this last, even as unto thee. Is it not lawful for me to do what I will with mine own? Is thine eye evil, because I am good? So the last shall be first, and the first last, for many be called, but few chosen. Here ends that portion of the Gospel of Matthew, the 20th chapter, verses 1 through 16. Now, this section here hinges on verse 12, when Jesus puts words in the mouth of the laborers and says, saying, These last have wrought but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal unto us, which have borne the burden and heat of the day. Focusing on the part, and thou hast made them equal unto us. You see, this whole idea of equality is fundamental to the idea of religion. You see, if you see religion as favoring one over another in any shape or form or way, whether it's by race or by nationality, or by morality, behavior, whatever, then the idea of religion gets lost. The idea is in the words that Jesus puts in this story he writes, which is about a person who hires laborers, day laborers. Now, in Hebrew tradition, business tradition, the laborer would be hired sometimes for a day, and if for a day, then at the end of the work period that was previously agreed upon, the laborer would come to the employer and state his claim on his wage, at which point, before the end of the day, the employer was obligated to then pay the laborer that day's wage. Now, it's translated here a penny, but that means a coin, and that doesn't simply mean a penny. Jesus isn't saying they worked cheap. No, there were different types of coins in Israel, just as there are different types of coins now, although none of our coins have much value. But in Jesus' day, they did. There were copper coins. A lepta was a little thin shaving of copper, just barely a coin, all the way up to silver and gold coins. Most nationalities had those three types of coin: copper, possibly iron, but mostly copper because it's more durable. Iron just rots. Silver, and then gold. And I'm not sure which precise one here we have, but in the Hebrew coinage, a single coin could easily have the value of a day's work. It could have the value of a week's work, actually, if it was a gold coin. This was probably one of the silver coins. So, and that was the tradition and the rule of law in their day, that the laborer would be paid each day so that on the way home they could shop and get the food for their family, and the necessary things in the bills could be paid. That was the law among the Jews 2,000 years ago. Well, if you're interested in that, you can read in a book called the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the oral law of the Jews, and it's about 1,000 pages long, and it goes into tremendous depth on business practices and moral practices and kosher practices, cooking practices, you name it. It's all in there. Excuse me. So now, in this text, Jesus puts these words that say, "You have made them equal unto us." You see, that's the whole point of this. This story isn't about employment, which some people have applied this story to. It's not about employment at all. This story is about how God looks at human beings. And in this sense, where Isus is the Greek word used by Jesus. It means equal. One of the most powerful operations in mathematics is the equal sign. When you can have one thing on one side of an equation, and on the other side of the equation, you can say that a different thing has the same value. And the equal symbol is one of the most powerful symbols or operations in mathematics, in all of mathematics. If you look at Einstein, he boiled down huge formulas. Of course, he wrote in German, not English, but we have the English rendering of it, E equals mc squared, not what he wrote in German. However, you see that the power of an equal sign, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, says a lot, but it hinges on the power of the equal sign, where one thing, energy, is compared to mass, a different thing. And yet, because of the power of the equal sign, there's an equal value struck. When Jesus says that God has made us equal to each other, he's not saying in height, we're different heights, or hair color. Some people have reddish hair color, some people have very dark hair color, and some are very light blonde. Some people speak English, some people speak Hindi, some people speak Hebrew, some people speak Greek, some people speak German, Italian, Russian, whatever. So it's not in language. Well, occupation? No, we're not equal in occupation. Equal in intelligence? No. Some people are incredibly brilliant, and others not so much. So not in intelligence. How is it that God has made us all equal? Well, what about morality? Some people are very pious and known for their piety, while others are known for the opposite, being essentially party animals and leading lives that are somewhat dissolute. But is that the same? Well, here's a funny thing. Yeah, that is actually the same. Because the human creature, the human animal, the human being, in that sense, is identical. Whether we pretend to be quite pious or even practice a very strong form of piety, or whether we practice no piety at all and instead practice a hedonistic lifestyle that practices the sensual and the emphasis on all that is pleasure. And they seem like polar opposites. But you see, the human animal is the human animal. It doesn't matter which one of us it is. In this sense, when God looks upon the human animal, he says, for all are broken, for all have fallen short, for all have missed the mark. There's not one, not a single one that is, in the Hebrew, tzaddik, in the Greek, dikaiosune, in the German, gerechtigkeit, in the Latin, justus, in the English, righteous or just. No one, God says, is perfect. None of us. And in this sense, we are all equal, issus, in the Greek. And there's a power in this. I said earlier that the equal sign is one of the most, if not the most powerful operator in mathematics. If you can have one thing on one side and a different thing on the other side, and then you can say these things have equal value, or are equal in weight, or equal in measure, or equal in some way, you have accomplished something magnificent. Well, here, God says, I am on one side and humankind's on the other, but we are unequal. There's an inequality. I on this side am perfect. I am God. I'm whatever. I use those words. I don't know what perfect means. I don't know what the word God means. I'd be a liar if I said I did. I have no idea. But whatever that being is on one side of the equation, we are on the other side. And there's a massive inequality. It's an equal sign with a diagonal line through it. And we are not equal to him. But we are on our side all equal to each other. Issus. And that means that we are all failed. We are all broken. Excuse me. Got a morning voice this morning. Coffee's just not... There we go. Maybe that will do it. Coffee sometimes gets us going there. There we go. When you're old and you've been a pastor for, 35 plus years, your voice is one of the first things to go. So, morning voice. Anyways, so what this is that the God, this being, he says that amongst us, we are all issus, equal. And I said there's a great power in this because it lays down the table flat. So we can't stand and say, well, my position is significantly greater than yours, or you are inferior to mine. And no one can say these things. Why? Because from his point of view, he has made us issus, equal. And this equality in brokenness, in failure, is profound. It's not minimal. It's not insignificant. It is the most profound thing. I don't know. See, this is the issue. People want to make sin a little laundry list of right and wrong, good behaviors, bad behaviors. That's fine if you're 3. If you can't think your way out of a paper box. But if you can think, then you must realize, or have already realized, that sin can't be a laundry list. This is not a trite thing. This being, whatever that we call God, cannot possibly be focused on a little laundry list of do's and don'ts. That has nothing to do with the issue at all. In fact, these are symptoms, not the actual core malady, illness, disease, brokenness. The real brokenness is something I don't know. I can't describe. its symptoms are the human condition in all of its facets. And yet, we don't realize what it means, because it's that we are a living offense to a divine being. And there is no human remedy for this, since we are all issus, by his own description of us, equal. But here's the good news. Here's the good bits. In that, in this brokenness we are equal, but before him, in his mercy, in his grace, in his kindness toward us, to get rid of the religious words, plain words, he loves you. He loves everyone. And how? Issus, equally. For God so loved the world. To quote a verse that people quote all the time and post up at football games. For God so loved the world. Yeah. The whole world, the same. Issus, equal. You see, we might be equal in brokenness, but before his love, we're also equal. And how did he accomplish this? Well, by his own will, by his own desire, by his own doing. He sent forth his son, Jesus, the one speaking these words, to be equal to us in our brokenness, so that the Father would look at him as broken as we are, even though he had no brokenness of his own. And then he would take for us the punishment of being broken. He would take in our place as one of us, being made equal to us. He who knew no sin became sin for us. And then the Father placed upon him the death that awaited a world of sinners, a world of brokenness. And I don't understand this either. We're not talking about simply physical death. We're talking about something much worse. To stand under the wrath of this divine being. And that's what Jesus, our brother, did. And so being equal in brokenness, but now found in our brother, Jesus, we are equal brothers and sisters, children of God. You see, this is the root idea of religion. To be equal is brothers and sisters before God. Issus. And there's the power of the equal sign. So that none of us have anything to brag about before God, as the scripture says. Why? Because we only stand before him, any of us, and all of us, forgiven, loved, adopted, reconciled, pick your word, but friends of God, by his doing, not ours. And so in that there is also the greatest equality, so that we can't stand on our little box tops and look down at someone else and say, you are inferior, and that with God you don't have the same love, you don't have the same relationship, you don't have the same offer of forgiveness, you don't have blah, blah, blah. That's nonsense. That's rot. The gospel is the Father's, God the Father's announcement to the world, to all human creatures, every single one, that in his love and in his forgiveness, in his kindness, in his mercy, we are all perfectly equal. There's that Issus again. And he is the one who has made us this way, so that none of us can stand taller than another. We frankly see eye to eye. And wouldn't that make this world a better place if that's what religion was? You know, the strange thing is that wars, inequalities, arguments, exclusions, that's the most bizarre thing I find in religion. Oh yeah, religion's for you, me, but not you. That is the most bizarre, non-religious thing I've ever heard of. It's nonsense. That's something that only the person who is an idiot would say, because it denies the very essence of issus, equality, both under God's condemnation, but also equal under his love. So, equality, that is the central idea of religion. And if there's someone who's saying something about religion that isn't based on that idea, well, they're not using the same scripture that's in front of us this morning from the Gospel of Matthew, the 20th chapter, in the story Jesus tells in verses 1 through 16, particularly verse 12, where he uses the word issus, that he has made us all equal together. Well, this has been retired Pastor Karl Schmidt, still working away over at Calvary Lutheran Church, a little Lutheran church in Amherst, New York, out on Air Road, 575 Air Road. We're not presently open this month. As the months go by, 1 month at a time, we'll evaluate based on the pandemic. If you don't have your vaccine yet, go get it. What are you waiting for? It'll help you, and if you don't care about you, it'll help people around you. Please at least care about the people around you if you don't care enough about yourself to go get a vaccine. And I'm not about to discuss the worthiness of a medical process that's been in place since the days of Napoleon over 200 years ago. If you want to read about it, go read about the story of Napoleon and the English doctor who helped develop the idea of vaccines. It's a fascinating story, and it saved billions of lives over 200 years. So, anyways, if you don't have a shot, go get your shot. And that's it. Take care. Bye-bye.